Okay, so we're going to talk about 62 here quick and all of these parts and pieces that are along with it. So 62, first of all, it says state the domain. The domain is going to be all real numbers, that is negative infinity to infinity, because there aren't any fractions in a polynomial and there aren't any square roots or anything. So it's got to be all real numbers. We'll see that when we look at the graph as well. Part B says determine all the local minimum points and tell if there's an absolute minimum point. Okay, so I keyed in this problem into my calculator. Now I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it a little bit better. Okay, and I'm going to hit graph, and with just a standard window, this is what I see. A couple of things. I notice that there's a lot of wasted space on the sides, but the end behavior is right, because an x to the fifth should go, a negative x to the fifth should go up to the left and down to the right. So this is as interesting as this graph gets. This is going to be pretty boring because it's just going to keep going down, and this is going to be pretty boring over here because it's just going to keep going up. So let's go to window and kind of bring in from maybe -4 or 5 to 5, bring in the sides, see what happens. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to kind of look a little bit higher to see where this turns around and comes back. So the window needs to be stretched up in the y direction. I don't know if 20 is going to be enough. I'm going to go right to 40. Don't get carried away with that though, because you can go too far. Let me just see if 40 is anywhere close. Okay, you can see that 40 was way plenty. In fact, I'll fix that here, and we maybe go just to 20 or 30 because this is kind of wasted space. I would kind of like to see a little bit more below, but I think if I take this part out, that'll kind of move the graph up a little bit. So let me just adjust this quick to only like 20. Yeah, that actually is pretty good. Okay, now a couple of things. I don't know if you saw this or not. If you look real closely here, this passes through the x-intercept twice right here. Once through it and then back. We'll take a closer look at that when we zoom in. And I think over here, this is really kind of tricky because it looks almost like it went flat for a while, but I think it actually dipped down, went back up, and then came back down. So there's actually a minimum and a maximum here that you might not see in this current window state. So we were supposed to go find the minimums. Okay, I think there's a minimum here. Second calc minimum. And left, right, and guess. So you'd want to write the minimum is at minimum point, I should say, is at -1.1 actually, and -0.46 or 0.5, okay? And then we would go, that would not be an absolute minimum. That would not be an absolute minimum because the graph clearly goes lower eventually than there. So let's go get the maximum here. The maximum, second calc, maximum. Answer the questions about being left and right and guess. A maximum, a local maximum, occurs at 0.1, 16.2. Okay, and that is not an absolute maximum point because the graph goes higher over here. Now, we probably have to zoom in right here. So I'm going to do that, actually zoom in. And then don't just push zoom in wherever you want. You got to kind of move the cursor to what you want to look closer at. So I think I want to investigate what's going on right here. Just push enter. Colored calculators are pretty slow to graph. Okay, do you see that? If not, we have to zoom in again, but I see it. There is a minimum right about there. So let's go second calc minimum. I need to be left of that valley, right of the valley. Okay, and I think that valley is about right there. And it says there is a minimum indeed at 1.795, 1.8, comma negative 0.07608. Okay, so that there is an actual little dip right in the graph right there. Now there's also then, since it turned around, there's a maximum here somewhere. So we'd have to go second calc, maximum. And yeah, I'm left of it now, and I'm right of it now, and I'll be guessing about what it is there. There's a maximum at 2. And this is the calculator's really confusing way. Sometimes you won't even get that same number if you do it probably. But this is really saying move the decimal place 11 places that way, put zeros in. This is really saying 0, and it's just having a tough time saying it. So negative 2 comma 0 is local maximum. Okay. Also a 0 for this graph. Okay. So the next question I think is about the intercepts. While we're here, let's say that that is one. That is an intercept because this is 0. So negative 2 is a 0. We would have to find a 0 right here. So second calc 0 and answer those questions. This time not looking for the bottom, but where it hits the x-axis. So we're left of it, we're right of it, and we're on it. And another 0 happens at 1.686, or you could maybe say 1.7. Okay. Now I got to return back to the window that I had. Window, I think I was at negative 5 to 5. And from like negative 10 to 20, I think was the window. Okay, graph. We've got to find a few more zeros, but we just as well take advantage while we're zoomed in like that of finding those zeros there. Okay. You could have the calculator find the y-intercept here while we're here, but we don't need to. I think if we look at our problem, we could find that by letting x be 0, and it would just tell us what the answer is. So that's faster off of the problem, not the calculator. But let's look here then, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go zoom in right on this part here. So second zoom, oops, not second zoom, zoom in, move the cursor. I want to see what's going on right about there. And what's going on right about there is, oh wow, it actually passes through, there's 2 zeros here, okay? So we can do second trace, the calculator gets in second trace, 0, be left of this one, be right of this one, and I think the 0 is about right there. And write that down, negative 1.186, negative 1.19 is one of the zeros. And second trace, 0. I am left of it if I'm there, I am right of it if I'm there, and I'm guessing there. And it's also at negative 1, 0. So we found all the zeros. Okay. This is kind of hidden behavior here that there's 2 zeros when you first look at it. So don't be afraid to use the zoom in feature and take a closer look. This is not a comprehensive window though. This is just showing us this real well. If you want to understand the graph in its whole, you have to have a comprehensive window. All right. Thanks. Have a good day.